so you never know when it's going to go totally blank. It's happened. It's happened before. It probably will happen again. So has anybody here heard the expression, I know you have, but just make sure that everybody hasn't been too disconnected from the world. The expression that that which doesn't kill us will only make us stronger. Y'all believe that? You know, this takes me back, because if you notice the themes that's running through the lectionary text today, we have the Joseph story, the saving of that remnant of Israel through the whole Joseph narrative. This establishment of the root, this stump of Jesse, this patriarchal line that if you look real carefully in Matthew's text, at the very beginning, Matthew starts off his text with genealogy. 14 generations from Abraham to David. 14 generations from David to the exile. 14 generations from the exile to Christ. And he mentions everybody that was there along the way. It's interesting that he mentions also in this patriarchal society, he mentions two women that happen to be harlots. Rahab and Tamar. So they've got this rich history of what was mentioned in the Romans text, these wild shoots that are being grafted in, including the Canaanite woman that was mentioned in the Matthew text. So we've got this established entity, and then we've got the people that will be grafted into it, and that are the faith is based on something radically different. You know, we've been talking about, you know, that the idea that, you know, can God be trusted? This is part 3 of the series, and it has to do with Romans 9, 10, and 11, and Paul kind of takes this journey from the first 8 chapters to it's almost like it's on his mind. What about my people? What about those that are my people? My genealogy, where I come from. Way back when, in another lifetime, I worked in a laboratory for a little while, and we talked about this remnant that's there, and how this remnant gets established, even through the Joseph story. Almost all of them, and we will see this as they invade and take over from Moses and the Exodus story, and that this remnant, there will be a whole lot of them that are dispersed or killed, but there will be this remnant that remains. And out of this remnant, the line continues and continues, and it becomes condensed until it's very, very strong, that the root stock is almost unshakable. It's almost disease resistant. It's almost like there's nothing that can stop it. And this is the same way. You know how you make penicillin resistant bacteria? You take an agar plate and you put bacteria on it, and you put penicillin on it and kill it. But if one little dot remains, if one little piece, one little remnant remains, you take that up and you put that on a brand new agar plate, and you spread it out the best you can, and you put more penicillin on it this time than you did the last one, and you see what grows. You let it incubate, and then you put it on there, and if one remains, you take that one and you do the process and do the process and do the process, and pretty soon you can put as much penicillin on that agar plate, and it doesn't matter, it will look like that. And now you've got a penicillin-resistant bacteria that you got to do something else with. It works not just for penicillin, it works for any of the drug. This is how drug research is done. How do we kill it without, and making sure. You ever wonder why they tell you to take all your penicillin? Yeah. And so there's nothing left. They don't want anything left. So we want this remnant. We've got this remnant, this root stock of Israel that's there through the Joseph line all the way up to Christ. And then we've got this in bringing in the embudding, this transplanting of the people into the root stock. Did you ever do this? Do your family tree? See where you come from? Family chart? Anybody into genealogy.com? See where you are? Yeah, I knew there'd be a couple people that were. Do you do it this way, or do you use a family tree? Is there a family? Yeah, like this. This is kind of how it works. How do you want? You want that in your living room? It's good. It's good. You know, but it tells us where we came from. It tells us what we're doing. There's a reason that Paul uses this vision, this image of the olive tree in his text today. This grafting in, this to cut off the rootstock and let this budding take place, and we can put these the new shoots into that. And it's a good place to put them. It's a great place. But there's a couple things about it that we have to understand. The question in Paul's mind is, has God rejected his people? And his answer is surely not, and it seems to be that then why are things the way they are? Can God really be trusted if he seems to have changed the ball game here? That we was moving all along, we've got this remnant of Israel that's there, and all of a sudden that now we have Christ to deal with. And Paul is saying that this was God's plan all along. All of the Old Testament points to this. God didn't go this way. You went this way. God went straight ahead the way that God always did. But now he has to explain it. And part of the things that he's going to end up explaining, we'll get to that in just a second. But this olive tree image. Olive trees are very old, by the way. Very old. This one here is probably, they claim that this one may be 1,000 years to 1,500 years old. The sequoias that we have out west, they're even older than that one. But olive trees can grow a long, long time. And at the time of Christ, the dresser of sycamore figs and the dressing of olive trees was something that's well known. How do we take care of them? How do we transplant them? And why do we transplant them? Do you ever eat a wild olive? Then you'll understand why that you keep grafting in shoots. It's because that things happen when you graft in new material into an old stump. I put this up there because it was important for us to see. You see, Christianity is way down there, 33 AD, and above that is all the religions that was available at the time of Christ if we were going to be grafted into something. And if it seems like that we were so much different that if Christ was so much different than the Judeo religion of its time, then we may have gone someplace else. What was Abraham before he became the leader of when God told him to step out and I will make you a nation? See, we don't know. He had faith. By faith he went. So there was worshiping. The points of the sermon for today is, the first one is that this one right here, that which is grafted in is changed, it's improved, it's made better by the rootstock which supports it. And I think you can see where I'm going with this, because we can look at this as a prefiguration of the church. Us. What will we graft in? And how will we be changed? And how will we allow this room here for that wild stock that we want to come in? Or do we want any wild stock to come in here? Do we want anything grafted into us, or we pretty much like it just the way that we are? We don't want them bitter tasting olives for sure, right? That wouldn't be good. One of the miracles of creation of us is our ability to recognize ourselves. And anybody that's ever been through any kind of cancer treatment knows how difficult this is. Our body tries to reject that which is from outside. It knows. You ever get a splinter? You feel it right away. You know exactly where it's at, and you know something's wrong. A fly lands on you on the backside of your leg. You don't even have to reach down and look at it to see where it's at. Your body recognizes that touch sensation. We know what is part of us, and we know what's foreign to us. But what we don't realize is sometimes that's why when we do heart transplants, the rejection drugs that we have to take is because your body tries to get rid of that. Even though that which is grafted in could do you a whole lot better, is there for your benefit. So what we've got is the rootstock is improved by what's grafted in. But what about what's grafted in? We take the root that's here, The essence of what this church is. How is that which is grafted in improved by that? Well, you know that they refine these olives, and so what we've got is a sweet-tasting oil that comes from the olive tree because the grafts that were these wild shoots that came in, they're changed a little bit, they're altered a little bit. And we do that today, sometimes to excess with genetically modified organisms trying to make them better. But the natural process of improving something by grafting it in and to allow it to, the rootstock to have its way with that which is brought in, and to allow the wild shoot to be transformed by the stock that's here. Making sense? It should. Because when we bring people into the church, when we open this doors to the church to come in for worship, you know, if our expectation is that everybody is going to be just like we are right now, then there's not much exchange. There's not much transformation that goes on, that we grow that way. Christ himself used the idea of the vine, that I'm the vine, you're the branches, and apart from me you can do nothing. But attached to me, you can grow and flourish and do whatever you need to do to be part of that vine. It's important that we see the relationship between what Paul is talking about, this idea of the new being grafted in to the old. It's something that we have to ask ourselves. For instance, we've just been given this check by our bishop, for the conference, for $2,000 to start a new ministry, to allow something to happen in this church that would invite others in, to bring in a wild shoot, so to speak, and be grafted into the rootstock that's already here. What will that be? Are we going to look for something in a ministry that's going to bring in people just like us? Or are we going to use that seed money to bring in something that's not like us, that can enrich our lives? Don't even know what that is. But as I ask for what would that be, what would your imaginations imagine in your wildest thought? What would that be so that the church would be made better, and yet the group grafted in would get the essence, the minerals, the nutrients from this to thrive and to be made better than they already are. This idea of being grafted in is so important to Paul. To get back to his original question, has God rejected his people? Paul emphatically says no. And then he uses this idea of this hardening of the people that's there will allow, is for some mysterious reason, that's what's going to eventually bring the entire fold of Israel back in. Even the ones that rejected Christ in the first place. And then he goes on to say, but this is the mystery of God. This is not something that I know. God in his infinite wisdom has already worked out this in his great plan. Isn't that marvelous? I mean, we don't really have to worry about that. We do have to worry about how old of a tree we will get to be. Because we do know that without this continual growth and this attachment with the earth, and without the grafting in of newness, every once in a while, the tree just gets like this one right here. It starts to get eroded. It's ancient. It's probably not going to change much, but I'll bet you there's still room for grafting in on this tree. I'll bet you. So we go forward. We start in this period now to start the new year. We're almost to September, and we will start another church year. And we're going to look at vital congregations, what it means to be a vital congregation. We're going to see ways to offer ourselves, the ways that this church can bless others and allow them to bless us. And some of them may be bitter. They may be bitter. Bringing them in may just seem like the worst thing in the world to do until we figure out ways that we can mutually benefit each other. I hope you see the relationship between what going on today. This bringing in people for the benefit of both. Because I think that as we engage the youth around here, as we engage the other cultures around here, that this church could be just enriching to the point to where there's no stopping. We could live to be 1,800 years old. You never know. God has plans for this church. God has plans for each one of us. I know the plans that I have for you. He set this into motion before the creation of time and brought us to this point right here. What will we do with it? How will we take it and run with it? That's the question. Thanks be to God. As we go into our prayer time this morning, it's been a kind of a challenging morning today. Got a phone call from Kay Young Barber. Last night they took Bruce to the hospital and he passed this morning. And as you would well expect, Kay is struggling right now. And it hasn't been that long ago that this news came through. And she has family there with her now, but she could certainly use your prayers right now for comfort.